Hey, welcome. This is Sebastian from socialanxietysolutions.com. I'm a former social anxiety disorder sufferer, and I'm a social confidence coach, and I help people overcome social anxiety so they can feel relaxed and at ease in social situations. And since 2009, on YouTube at least, I've been preaching about a particular way that you can overcome your social anxiety without forcefully facing your fears. So it is a different kind of integrated approach. And one key element of that particular approach is addressing your social anxiety, not just by addressing the symptoms, but actually looking at what causes the symptoms to get triggered in the first place. You might have heard me say this before. Social anxiety is the result of an activation of the fight, flight, freeze response. So when you're in a social situation, you all of a sudden start to get anxious, your heart starts to race, your mind starts to blank out, maybe you start to sweat and you start scanning for all these things that could go wrong. In that moment, your brain is perceiving a threat. Now, that might not be a real threat, like a wild bear approaching you or a tiger approaching you. It's not a life-threatening situation like that. But your brain doesn't distinguish between a real threat like that and an imaginary threat, like getting rejected, being ridiculed, being made fun of, looking foolish, embarrassing yourself, getting judged, them seeing you anxious, etc. And it reacts in the same way. It activates the body's biological survival mechanism, aka the fight, flight, freeze response. So your system is flooded with adrenaline and cortisol, your heart rate starts to elevate, and your system is prepared to optimally deal with the threat that it's perceiving. So blood goes away from your digestive system in your head into your outer limbs, and cortisol and adrenaline and your heart pumping faster and your blood going there, that makes you stronger, as strong as possible, to fight the threat that is there, or to run as fast as you can. All right, and to freeze if you can't do either. That's then your best option. So that's what's happening. And so the key to overcoming your social anxiety is addressing the thing that activates the fight, flight, freeze response, and that is your perception. So when you perceive that you're going to get rejected, that's your expectation, and your expectation is also that you cannot handle that, then being in that social situation is a threat. Hence, your system fires off the fight, flight, freeze response, and now you feel anxious. Okay, so that's what's happening. So the solution is to get rid of the perception of threat. Now, your perception of threat is there as a result of beliefs, such as there's something wrong with me, I'm not okay the way I am, I can't make mistakes, I have to impress people, gotta be cool, can't la 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 la, a whole bunch of them. And what I have been sharing for a long time is that you can use a particular technique to address the emotional side of your social anxiety problem. And that's actually the much bigger part of it. It is, in my experience, only a very small part a thinking problem. In fact, it's not really a thinking problem. Your thinking comes forth from your emotions, from your belief system. And so you want to address the negative emotions that are connected to your problem, and you want to release the beliefs that are connected to your problem. In other words, the beliefs that are responsible for your brain perceiving a threat. Now, a belief is just a thought that you believe to be true, that you feel is true, even though you might logically object to it. You might feel on a gut level that there's something wrong with you, or that you're not okay the way you are, or that you're not good enough, or whatever the belief might be. And logically, you might know, well, I'm a really great girl, and I'm nice, and I have a good sense of humor, and I pay my taxes, and whatever it is, I've accomplished this, and blah blah blah. And you might build up a very good case for why you're actually good enough, and you feel good in the moment doing that. But then you go out into a social situation, and boom, you get triggered just as much, because that belief didn't get changed, because that I'm not good enough belief is something that has emotion connected to it. You have emotional evidence to back up that belief system, to back up that you're not good enough. So you might have learned early on in life through criticism from your parents, for example, constant criticism, perfectionistic parents, you know, a difficult teacher, being compared to your siblings, not living up to expectations, whatever. You might have learned over time through emotional experiences that that's the way for you, that you just end up being a not good enough person. And you might have had specific traumatic experiences. Some people have, some people don't. But somehow, some way, you picked up that particular belief, and now it's an emotionalized thought. That's another way to see a belief. And so changing that is very difficult, very challenging, just using your thinking. And so to address the emotional side of your problem, you need to have an emotional tool. And one that I've been preaching about for a long time, first video in 2009, is tapping. So tapping is a psychological form of acupuncture, but it is, instead of using needles, you tap with the tips of your fingers on specific acupressure points on your body. Now I've said this many times, this is the first time you hear about it. Okay, welcome. This is very weird, it's very bizarre, it's out there, but it works amazingly well. But today I want to share a very simple technique with you to use this tapping. Okay, very, 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 very simple. Can't do it wrong kind of simple. Okay, so this is how that goes. All right. I'm going to assume that you're familiar with the tapping points. If you're not familiar with the tapping points, I just want you to follow along and tap where I tap. Okay, so I'll just briefly go over them, and then they're here, and then they're here, and then they're here, and here, and here, and here, and here. We'll skip the liver point, because otherwise I gotta hop up, but, you know, and the wrist point, and then back to the top of the head. Okay, we'll just use those. There are more, but we're just gonna use those. So what I want you to do is just follow along with me and just notice what happens. So the simplest way to use tapping is to focus on something. This is a formula, okay? Focus plus tapping equals relief. Focus plus tapping equals relief. Focus on a particular problem, which triggers the emotions connected to it. Add the tapping, and now you get a relief. All right. Not always, not all the time, because if it was that easy, nobody would be still having social anxiety who has heard this message. There's all sorts of things that you need to do whenever it doesn't work, but this is the basic formula, okay? And any problem you run into when it doesn't work, there are solutions for. All right, but we'll keep it super simple. So one very simple way of then starting to tap without knowing any of the techniques, just to experiment with it, is to focus on a particular feeling or a thought and just add the tapping and keep doing that. And just keep moving from point to point. So focus on the feeling or focus on the thought and then just tap, all right? So that's what we're gonna do. So I want you to just close your eyes now for a moment with me. So do this exercise. Don't just watch this. I'm not your entertainer here, though I'm a little bit entertaining, but you know, I pick my moments. So just close your eyes, and I want you to scan how you're feeling. And if you're not feeling generally good, and generally good is our default state of being, notice how it is that you're feeling. Maybe you're feeling frustrated. Maybe you're feeling anxious. Maybe you're feeling worried. Maybe you're feeling embarrassed. Maybe you're feeling ashamed. Maybe you're feeling guilty. Maybe you're feeling whatever. Just check in and see how you're feeling. And notice how you're feeling in your body. Maybe you feel a tightness in your chest. Maybe you feel a lump in your throat. Maybe your stomach is constricted, or you just feel like this heaviness in the pit of your stomach. Maybe you just feel jittery and nervous all over. Just be aware of how it is that you're feeling. Just become conscious of that. And if you're just feeling neutral, then maybe you think about how you feel about your social anxiety. And that will likely bring up some feelings for you. All right, and then just rate how bad you're feeling on a scale of 0 to 10. 10 is horrible. 0 is, I feel generally good. Okay, good. Now open your eyes. Now just start tapping at the beginning of your eyebrows and focus on the worst feeling that you have. And just keep focusing on it without trying to change it. This tapping is not intended to get rid of the feeling. No, you're kind of allowing the feeling to be there while you're simultaneously tapping. And you're kind of giving it permission to be there. And you're kind of like the observer of it while you're tapping. So the tapping simultaneously with the observing and the mindset of allowing it to be there, it's kind of like a combination of mindfulness and tapping. What this allows is it allows you to complete emotional cycles from the past that haven't been completed, or it allows you to decrease emotions that are present that are not really necessary or excessive. So just observe whatever you're observing while you're tapping. And just keep tapping from point to point, just like I'm doing. Tapping on the top of the head. Now, if a particular thought comes to mind, such as, this is bullshit, then focus on that particular thought at each point. So you might say it out loud, this is bullshit, this is bullshit, this is bullshit. Or you can think it in your mind while you tap. That's fine too. This is bullshit, this is bullshit. Can't really say it out loud while thinking, right? It's a bit difficult. Or you might have the thought, this won't work for me, or I don't want this to work, or I don't want to feel good. I refuse to feel good. I can't let go of this. You might have resistant thoughts like that. Whatever you're aware of, just focus on it for a little bit, allow that to be there, and just keep moving from point to point. Now, sometimes often you'll find that either the feelings decrease, or sometimes they start moving locations. So it starts out in your belly, and it moves to your chest, or it starts out in your chest and it moves to your throat, or it starts out in your throat and it moves to your belly, or it is in all three locations and it stops being here and now it gets stronger here, and then etc. But you're just following it with your attention. You're just putting your focus on wherever it is most uncomfortable next. So you look for where it's most uncomfortable. If you don't know where, just pick it, and then you just follow it with your attention. And then you just rest your attention on the discomfort and you give it permission to be there. Emotions, they come in like waves and they peak at some point and then they fall, just like waves on the ocean. But what we've done throughout our lives, a lot of us, is we've repressed those feelings. We've tried to push them away. We don't want to feel this way. I want to feel good. I don't want to deal with this. I shouldn't feel this way. Those kinds of thoughts you might also have in your mind. If so, focus on them for a little bit, because as you keep those thoughts in your mind, they're emotionalized thoughts. The emotion starts to disconnect from those thoughts, and then they have less power over you, and then that moves away, that moves through. Then it's the next thing that you focus on. So now as you're tapping and you're observing, and maybe you're thinking or saying out loud certain thoughts that are popping in mind, just notice what's happening in your experience. Are you feeling better? Are you feeling less good? Are you feeling worse? Are you feeling the same? Have no judgment about it. All of it is okay. And if you have judgment about it, that's the thing that you're going to focus on. Man, I should be feeling better right now. Or, it's stupid that this doesn't work for me. Why is this not working for me? I'm such a tough case. Maybe some part of me doesn't want this to work. Whatever. Play around with it I'm doing this so that you get an understanding that this is a very versatile and forgiving technique. I send out an email to everyone on my email list, and if you're not on there yet, you can subscribe right here, socialanxietysolutions.com. And in that email list, I told people, well, if you don't tap in the right way, on the right targets, you won't overcome your social anxiety. And that's true in my experience. That really is true. It is really an education to understand your own psychology, what mental and emotional health is, how to use the tapping in the right way, in what, there are different stages, there's a different order and a different sequence in which you make this tapping most effective. And so if you're just shooting in the dark, you're not gonna overcome your social anxiety. But after I sent that out, I had my coach on my neck saying, how can you say, no, not that bad. But she said, I tell my clients that tapping is a very forgiving technique in order to encourage them to give it a try. The way you've written that in your email seems to imply that tapping doesn't work if you don't do it in the right way. And I told her, well, these people that are on my email list have been there for a while, and they have learned about tapping already because they get a free course for signing up. So they're already familiar with it, so they understand what I mean. But just in case, I want you to understand that you can play around with the tapping and be very easy about it. And you might not overcome your social anxiety if you don't know how to apply it in the right way, but at the very least you can start making some progress on your own, and you can start getting some results, and getting some results will motivate you to start doing it more, because that's what it did for me. I started getting results. I'm like, wow, finally something that actually works. Oh my God, I gotta do more of this, right? So that's it. So all right, we'll do one more round of tapping. So just close your eyes and focus on where the feeling is the worst right now. And just repeat after me out loud. Just say, I release all my emotional attachments to my resistance, to letting go of this and feeling good. And tap on the beginning of the eyebrows and notice what's happening, and notice the feelings. And again, you're tapping while you're observing it. Kind of like you're watching TV, but now you're watching your own show. You're the observer of your emotions and your thoughts while you're tapping, and you're curious about it. It's uncomfortable. It's not easy to do this. It's helpful. It gets better the more you do it. So just observe your thoughts, your thinking, and again, when a thought pops out, focus on the thought while you tap, same thought over and over until it loses its hold on you. And then maybe the next thought or the next feeling. Okay, all right, and then we're moving to the top of the head. I want you to take a real deep breath and relax. Close your eyes again. And now notice how you're feeling now and compare it to how you felt before. Do you feel just as bad? Do you feel worse? It happens sometimes. Sometimes you feel worse. It just means you've uncovered some stuff that's underneath it. In which case, keep tapping. Keep tapping, keep tapping. In other scenarios, you have encountered resistance to letting go of the problem. And therefore, your problem seems to be bigger, but it isn't. Now you just got to focus on the resistance, so keep tapping. Those are less common scenarios. The most common one is that you feel better, and you feel less upset, you feel less strong emotion, you feel relieved, you feel a bit more at ease, maybe a weight's lifted off your shoulders, whatever. That's a common experience. So check in for yourself right now and see, is my number still the same? Is my number different? And then write down below in the comment sections, please, pretty please, what your experience was, what your number was before and what your number was after. Now I know that might be scary to do, but I would really appreciate it, and others as well, because they can see what this does, and it might inspire them to actually watch the video. I often do that. I look at a video and I look at the comments underneath it and I look how much likes it has, and I'm like, okay, is this a good video or not? So please let them know that it is a good video if you got some benefit out of it by hitting the like button, putting a little comment of your experience, and subscribing, of course, if you're not already. Also, what you might find is your emotions have shifted in that you started out feeling ashamed and now you're more feeling frustrated. That is big progress. That means that it's commonly known in EFT land, tapping world, as shifting aspects. That means that you've dealt with one emotion and now the other one is most prominent, most in your focus, most in your awareness. So you just want to keep going. Now I'm just giving you a little taster of how you can do this for yourself. So great practice to do is to just sit by yourself and just notice as you tap what's happening inside. It's making you more aware, and it's starting to help you get back to the present and help you get back to your normal, natural, good feeling state. Okay, so hope this has been helpful. This is Sebastian from socialanxietysolutions.com. I release videos like this every Thursday. On Tuesdays I do testimonials Tuesdays, and there's a lot of good and exciting stuff coming. I'm going to, on the 2nd of April, coach someone live on my YouTube channel. So let the world know about it, show up for it, be there with me, and it's gonna be a good time, okay? And this is all for now, and I'll connect with you soon. Bye.